Hey, welcome back to the Vikings Playbook. And I know we're in the off season. It's Bears Packers that's going on in the background. So some of you guys might be watching that game, and we'll try to, if you're watching this, we'll also try to keep you up to date on the score. But exciting things. So Vikings Playbook podcast today. I have a special guest with me, and that's David Woods from the Skol State of Mind podcast. He's our special guest. And we're going to talk about various topics. We're going to talk about the state of the NFC North. We're going to talk about the Brian Flores situation, what to do at quarterback next year with JJ McCarthy, what quarterbacks may be brought in. But David Woods, Skol State of Mind. Make sure you follow D Woods on social media. He's at Skol State of Mind on X. Go ahead and follow him. And with that, and no further ado, I'm going to go ahead and welcome him onto the stage. D Woods, how we doing?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great right now, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. I'm recovering. Been sick with the flu almost all week with the family and everything. So we're all kind of recovering in the household, getting better. So we're on a much more positive track in the Hoik house. So um, as far as when we take a look at the Vikings and where we are today, um, we came a long ways as far as where we were in 24. And one of the very first things that we're going to talk about has to do with the state of the NFC North. And I know that you talked about some of that stuff with Paul Allen. You had Paul Allen on your podcast, and that was really cool to see. The fact that you had Paul Allen on there, who I've loved and watched. I was amazed. I tuned in. It was an amazing podcast for you having him on. But what was that like, having Paul Allen, voice of the Vikings, on your
Right.
podcast?
It was surreal. Like I couldn't believe it. Like when he contacted me and we first started talking, I was still like, "Is this real? Like, is somebody playing me? Like is I didn't know." So when we got closer and closer, just being nervous about it. But he kind of was understood I was nervous and calmed it down, and we kind of talked backstage before we went live, and it was just a great experience. Great experience.
Now, it, you've been doing podcasting for how long now?
Going on 3 years now.
3 years. That's what I thought. I had heard you and Paul talked about 3 years, and you live in LA, right?
I live in California. I'm from LA, but I moved to San Bernardino. San
Okay.
Bernardino's like an hour and a half out from LA.
Okay. So how did you become a Vikings fan?
Well, I'm 41, so growing up
Same.
in yeah, so cool. So growing up in LA at that time, being a kid, teenager, whatever, we didn't have a team. There was no professional football team in LA at that time. Like
Sure.
the Raiders are gone. The closest one probably San Francisco or the San Diego Chargers at the time. So everybody kind of picked and choose, what team they wanted. And for me, I was playing running back at the time, like Pop Warner level, and my cousin was like a big Cowboys fan. And he was just like, "Hey, if you want to be a running back in the league and you want to go to the NFL, like, like a kid or whatever," he's like, "You gotta watch Emmitt Smith." So I'm like, "All right, cool." Like the family is we all as a family, we come together and we're watching Emmitt Smith on Thanksgiving. Biggest mistake they could ever made, because that's that game Randy Moss went off. And
Yeah.
ever since that day, it was like, well, who's this number 84? Like, I like that team. And I, I looked at Robert Smith as one of my favorite players because he could actually catch the ball. He didn't have a lot of fumbles. Chris Carr is one of my favorite, and I've been a Viking fan ever since. That's just how it worked.
Yeah, so it sounds like you and I like a lot of the same players, and of course, being the same age, we're coming up, we're watching all the same.
Right.
We watched AC and CC when they
Yeah.
were together. So that's just cool. So I mean, we came up in that same time watching the Vikings, so that's very cool. Now, we saw the Rams earlier play today, and they eked one out
Yeah, they
against
did.
the Carolina Panthers. And currently, like I said, right now, Green Bay and Chicago Bears going at it. Bears got the ball. They're up. The Packers are up 21-6.
Yeah.
Not really how I thought this game was going to go. With them having some injuries, I thought maybe that would give the Bears a bigger edge at home than what it seemingly has.
Mhm.
What about you?
I took the Bears early because I thought the Packers was going to come in kind of limping, especially with Jordan Love and his injuries, and Josh Jacobs was kind of in and out the lineup, and with their defense not having Michael Parsons, and everything kind of runs through Michael Parsons. So I kind
Mhm.
of felt like, all right, Chicago, they can probably get one, they can win one. They're going to be at home. It's going to be a lot of high energy. They're coming in with not too many injuries right now. I mean, just got Roma Doomsday back. So I'm like, okay, cool. The offense should be rolling, especially when they're running the ball. They just got smacked in the mouth, and it looks like they're not going to recover. And it seems like Caleb is dealing with some kind of ankle sprain right now. So
So
doesn't look.
that kind Yeah, so I mean that brings us to our first topic. I mean, when we start looking at, the state of the NFC North and what's going on right now, I mean, man, bears are gonna bear, right? So
Yeah,
so by the looks of it, you know, we're gonna talk about the state of the NFC North, past, present, and future. I mean, let's take a look at where we were last year to what happened this year. So we took a look at the standings and we totally got flipped on our head here.
yeah.
So 15-2 for Detroit. Minnesota was 14-3. Green Bay was 11-6. All three of those teams made the playoffs last year.
Mhm.
Chicago was at the bottom of the basement. Now we go to this year, and these standings are completely flipped on their head. And Chicago is 11-6, and we'll talk about this, but and then Green Bay, they're a tie away from not making the playoffs. Chicago was potentially a game away, where if Minnesota wins that last game in Chicago, Minnesota's in the playoffs, instead of both of these teams. But in a crazy way, the standings completely just got flipped. In Detroit, who was, the darling of the league, if you will, last year, and was probably a big favorite coming into this year. Even with their coaching situation, they're now at the bottom of the basement, watching the playoffs, and they got a better draft pick this year than the Vikings will, and they're gonna have a fourth. They're gonna have a fourth place record to play against
Okay, yeah.
coming into 26. I mean, that's just wild.
Yeah, it's crazy, but that's what happens in football. That's why it's like when you talk about the 4 play schedule, like I don't really like hold that, to vest so much because you never know what these teams are going to do the
Mhm.
next year. Like, hey, people can say like, oh, San Francisco, they had like a 3rd place schedule from last year because they had deal with a lot of injuries. But now you still have to beat the guys in front of you. Like it is what it is. Like it's football. Like you have to beat. And that's just what this guy just said on the comment right now. Basically, it's only 3 games, like 4 play schedule. It is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, fourth place, it is 3 games, but, depending which division you're playing,
Right.
that could be a big thing,
Yeah.
so it does matter, depending on who you're playing, which division you're playing. If you're playing a weak division, uh, yeah, that matters, if it's top heavy, you
Like
know,
the Vikings did last year.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
let's
I
be
know. I
real.
know.
Let's be real. It'll
They
be nice
yeah, they
if you've taken a look, and I'll have to bring it up here at some point during the podcast. But if you take a look at our 2026 teams, and that's probably something we should talk about. Maybe we should get on a podcast some other time and talk about our 2026 schedule. But that's definitely something to talk about. So thanks for jumping on, Purple Jesus. Appreciate it.
what
Gil,
up?
what up, fam? Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Purple Jesus also says there's other fourth place teams that are like, all right, we get the Vikings next year.
True.
You're not
True.
wrong. You're not wrong.
True. Yeah, true. True.
All right. And then, all right. So we're going to go through each one of these teams. And when we start off with the Bears, they were 11-6 from worst to first. So why they improved? So they had a coaching change. Obviously, Ben Johnson coming in there was a big one for them, and their takeaway differential that was huge. They led the league in takeaways. So yeah, their takeaway differential was also number one in the league. So they didn't give up the ball more than what they took away. So they were number one in takeaways, and then still they were number one in the differential, and just their young talent emerging. We saw Roma Dunze really take a bigger step this year. And you could maybe say that DJ Moore took a step back. at the same time
Yeah.
because Roma Duze really kind of took more of that spotlight. But then at the end of the season, I think we kind of saw what Luther Burden could be in that offense. And so some of the questions for the offseason we'll get into too, but um, I think that's some of the things that I see of why they improved. And you can't talk about any of this without also saying Caleb Williams got better.
I think one of the reasons why they improved the most is because they solidified their offensive line. If
There
you
you
look
go.
at
That's also one.
if you look at the year prior with Caleb, Caleb's elusive. He's gonna run around, he's gonna try to make plays, stuff like that. But
Mhm.
kind of like he was a sack maddening last year. And I think they went in, they traded for Joe Tooney, and I think I forgot who else they brought in free agency. And that's just a Ben Johnson thing. Because if you look at Ben Johnson's offenses in Detroit, they had a solid offensive line to where they can, go down the field, they can run the ball consistently. And that's another thing you talk about too, like running the ball with Swift and Monungai. Monungai is like a 5th-round pick, but in Ben Johnson's offense, like it really doesn't matter. So I think it kind of started there, like to me, with solidifying the offensive line and allowing Caleb to get out there and make plays down the field and actually make plays with his feet. And like my boy Zoe said, Ben Johnson's a great play caller. He is, man. He's close to the year in my opinion.
I mean, we'll see how this game goes down. Did he have him ready to play? All right, so questions for the offseason for them. I think schedule. They're going to be playing a first place schedule next year, so we'll see how that. Because
Yeah,
some of the Bears was they played an easier schedule, and their point differential. They barely scored more points
yeah.
than their opposing teams. So,
It's
there was the talk like, are they a fake division champion? They did not have a winning record in the division either. They went
I
2 and
think
4 in the division.
I think their point differential and what's going on with them is kind of exactly what happened to the Minnesota Vikings the first year with Kevin O'Connell, where the team kind of just hit the ground running with a new coach, and they get to the playoffs and then they get smacked. Like it's kind of similar. I'm not sure the differential that we had that year, but it's kind of teeter tottering on to be like the same scenario.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, some of the comments we have, Ben Johnson actually runs the ball. KOC's defense, he was getting better at that towards the end of the year at least. But yes, a little bit too little too late. But we did see it as we were starting to run the ball a little bit later in the year. We also were on a 5-game winning streak at the end of the year too. Um, Bears needed defense. Yeah, I mean their defense. They did have an injured secondary for it seemed like most of the year. They just could get healthy at that position group all year. And Ben Johnson over KOC. Ben doing it with his franchise quarterback. I mean, we'll see. I mean,
we'll get into that.
how many calls? How many calls did we hear for Tyson Badgett last year with Caleb Williams in the second half of the season? That's all I'll say. I mean, I'm not saying that JJ is the guy, but I'm just saying they went through it. And that earlier in the year, I had a Bears podcaster from social media on with me, and we talked about that, and they went through the growing pains that we're going through,
Yeah,
especially on the fan base side with JJ McCarthy, especially when he was struggling to where there were chances for, hey, let's get somebody different. He's not the guy. They went through that as a fan base last year with Caleb Williams and just the struggles and the frustration. So they kind of feel or see what we're going through right now as a fan base because they went through it and they're in that exact same position last year. They only had 5 wins as a franchise last year.
yeah,
So, all right. So jumping into the Packers. So Packers are 9-7-1. Yeah, playoffs again. And I put this before this game started, by the way. Same result, were they going to be one and done? Well, it doesn't look that way right now, right?
Yeah.
So why the Packers are back at the playoff mix, timely wins, middle of the pack in most key stats. So in a lot of stats, they're not like leader of the pack, if you will. in the league. And then the Packers addition of Micah Parsons, and that was good timing for them to where that really made a significant jolt. I think not only on their defense, but just overall with that team. I
Yeah.
think, and we saw for a while that everybody was jumping on the Packers bandwagon there for a while as favorites in the NFC. But they sustained some injuries. They had some key losses. And then, of course, Micah Parsons goes down with injury. So some questions are, can Green Bay bolster its various defensive holes? So they got rid of Kenny. Yeah, oh, man.
Kenny Clark.
Kenny Clark. So that's a big hole,
Yeah,
big. And yes, you picked up Micah Parsons, but you also lost a pretty big cog in the middle of your defense on that defensive line. Kenny Clark is a really good defense. How many times did we say Kenny Clark's a problem? For us, stuffing everything in the middle, not only on the run, but also on the pass. I mean, he would just bully us up front, especially with our issues we had at center previously. But is Micah Parsons back to start with that ACL tear? I mean, usually that's a 9-month deal. He's probably not going to be ready to start the season next year. So what kind of problems does that cause for their defense last year? Obviously, they're doing okay without him right now. And then I put this again before the game, and this is stuff that I'm seeing from their fan base as well. But is Jordan Love the long-term answer with some of the struggles he's had in the playoffs? But
yes,
right now it looks like, he's going to get a win here in the playoffs, and we'll see how the rest of this year goes. I think this is his second playoff win.
Yeah, second playoff win.
If they win the game, there's still plenty of game left.
But I like Jordan Love. I mean, I just think like when we're talking about the fan bases, Bears fan base, Viking fan base, Packers fan base, when you're developing a quarterback, you have to be able to sit back and take the lumps as they come. And not a lot of quarterbacks hit the ground running and just look amazing. And every year to year, look at what happened with Jaden Daniels this season. Jaden Daniels was electric last year. They went all the way to the NFC title game, but then this season he can't get on the field because of injuries. I mean, I would say out of the past 3 seasons, the best 2 quarterbacks, in my opinion, the young guys is probably Bo Nix and CJ Stroud. Like, they've been able to go to the playoffs consistently and, win games. Well, not Bo just yet, but his team does have the number 1 seed in the AFC. But with CJ Stroud, this is his 3rd year in the league, and actually his 3rd time in the playoffs. So he already has a playoff win. So you got to kind of have to like take the lumps, man. I know we haven't got to the McCarthy topic yet, but I mean, you just got to go through the motions, man. You have to, like, you can't just be a team to where you always have to look towards other teams to fix your quarterback situation. You got to be able to sit back and develop them. It's going to look bad sometimes, but sometimes it's going to look good. Like, that's just how it's going to go. That's how I see it.
Well, so I'm glad that you brought up CJ Stroud, and we'll talk out more about him. But did the Texans really feel that great about CJ Stroud yet? I think there's maybe some question marks there too. So, they're in the playoffs this year, but they're in the playoffs this year because of their defense, and because Davis Mills won some games while CJ Stroud was injured. So that's not give everything to CJ Stroud this year. I mean, they had, arguably number 1, number 2 defense, top 2 defense in the league this year that helped carrying them. And they had a backup quarterback come in and play better than CJ Stroud did.
But that's how it's supposed to be. Like,
not your backup coming in playing better than you.
Not playing better, but like I think the league, they kind of like they don't pretty much like look forward to like backup quarterbacks. I like what Chicago did with Tyson with Badgett. They basically signed him to a multi-year deal to basically be behind Caleb for the foreseeable future. I mean, backup quarterbacks matter. And I bring up this conversation a lot. It's like, we're already in a 17-game season. What's going to happen when the league goes to 18 games and you lose your quarterback for more time? Like, teams are going to have to invest in backup quarterbacks. Like, it's a need. If the quarterback position is the go-to position in the NFL, you're gonna need to have two guys that can win you some games, not just one. You can't just put all your eggs in one basket now because these guys can get hurt anytime. It's not a running back. You don't have three or four guys behind them that can come in and play. So with with Mills and what he did, that's great. That's great. I just hope he knows, he's still a backup, because what happens is he'll take that, go to another team as a starter, and be a backup next year.
Yeah.
Like that's what happens. We see it happen so many times. Like sometimes it's okay to be a backup.
And he's one of those players that, did he play himself into a potential starting position somewhere? I mean, we'll see.
We'll see.
Or at least a possible place where he can compete to be a starter. We'll see. I mean, he's one of those quarterbacks we'll talk about later. All right, looking at the Vikings, 9-8. We got salary cap trouble and quarterback questions, but factors at play for this year, the reason why we ended up 9-8, we had a strong defense. I would say arguably they were very undervalued from what they played all year based on the offense, because we lacked consistency, the ability to extend drives, and then our red zone efficiency for at least most of the year was not great. And that made Will Reichard shine even more, which he was awesome for us. But, that's one of the reasons why we're 9-8 is, we had JJ get injured 4 times throughout the year. He's in, he's out. We're bringing him back up. Wentz gets hurt and he's playing hurt. We got to bring in Brosmer in 2 different stints. One definitely didn't go well. And the other one, the defense really carried them in the game against Detroit, and then just missed opportunities that could have shifted their trajectory. Like I talked about before, if we beat the Bears in that second meeting, special teams, we don't allow Devin Duvernay to have a huge kick return. We made him go 3 and out, but they didn't need to do more than that. All they needed to do is run the clock and kick the field goal, right? So we do that, and we're actually in the playoffs.
Yeah, we're playing today probably.
now I say that, but I mean, if we win that game, the Packers are probably bringing their A game, for that last game of the year. Then we probably got to beat them out. But if we win that game, we're in the playoffs. Yeah, so questions for the offseason that we'll talk about is JJ McCarthy the starter in 2026?
Yes.
What kind of quarterback does the Vikings end up bringing in? Or do they bring in somebody to compete with JJ McCarthy, or do they bring in someone to help mentor and groom, but is also a really capable backup? So we'll talk more about that. Who is a salary cap casualty from this team? So what kind of impact does that have? Because we got about $46 million roughly we got to cut. And can Minnesota find success in the offensive side of the ball to help the defense out? And is Brian Flores back as the defensive coordinator? So there's some major questions for the Minnesota Vikings as far as what this team's going to look like in 2026. A couple of those topics with JJ McCarthy and Brian Flores we'll dig into a little bit deeper, but and we'll actually also dig into the salary cap casualty as well. As you saw, I had that when we started the video, but can we find success on the offensive side of the ball? I think we can. I think the big thing that really hurt us this year was being healthy. And you talked about it's a long season, but we started out the season not healthy, especially on the offensive line, and that really did not help things all throughout the year.
Yeah, I think what I look at it as the offensive side of the ball. I mean, I know you don't have this on your list, but like I think you have to hold Kevin O'Connell accountable for this bad offense. And what I mean by that is like I never want to be a person that says people should lose their job. But what we're looking at right now in the past 4 seasons with the Minnesota Vikings with Kevin O'Connell, it's been the same story every year. If the offensive line isn't injured, they're not playing well. If the offense isn't, having a lead going forward, they're going 3 and out. The offense should be one of the top offenses in the league, especially with the talent on this roster. And maybe it's time to get different voices on that side of the ball. Maybe we need to bring in somebody that can help Kevin O'Connell run this offense, because maybe just defenses has figured him out right now, because the offense is just bad. I mean, I can contribute that to be McCarthy and Carson Wentz and even Max Brosmer. But at the same time, if you look at it, as a whole spectrum, it's kind of the same situation that's been going on for the past 4 seasons. Like that's what it's been.
And does KOC say that, hey, I'm ready to move on and bring in somebody like a Mike McDaniels
That
to
would be
help him outrun the
That
offense?
would be great, but I don't know if KOC would want to do that because look how long it took him to actually simplify the offense for JJ McCarthy in like what week 12, week 13. Like, why should it have taken that long? You shouldn't have did that like week 2. That shouldn't have been a week 1 game plan for him to build on, not just give him everything that you would give a 7-year veteran quarterback. That just didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, and Wes Phillips is, he's really close with Wes Phillips, so is he willing to make that kind of a change, especially when, is Wes Phillips at fault because Wes isn't the one calling the plays, KOC is.
KOC is.
So it's hard to put that blame on Wes Phillips, right?
I blame them all. I
Yeah.
don't. I blame it from Kevin O'Connell all the way down to the water boy. I do because it's like if you look at this team, outside of the wide receivers and maybe the defensive tackles, the interior defensive linemen, like there's really no real development on this roster. Like you just replacing young guys with veteran aging contracts. And when Kevin O'Connell's like constructed this offense, like you got Justin Jefferson, you got TJ Hawkinson, you got Jordan Addison, you traded for Jordan Mason, and you just
Mhm.
3rd and 1 and you don't use them. 4th and 1, you don't use them. I mean, to me, it's like it's malpractice to me. Like I'm a big guy to say like I I blame Kevin O'Connell for his stuff, and I criticize everything. But it's kind of like if you look at what Quasi did in the offseason with bringing in Ryan Kelly, bringing in Will Fries, trading for Jordan Mason, re-signing Josh Oliver. You did all that to run the ball, and he didn't run the ball. Like that was
Yeah. Yeah.
like
No, I mean, that
you
was
have
the number one skill Josh Oliver had. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
like you have to look at it like that. Like I just remember the press conference after the loss against the Rams in Glendale, whatever. Yeah, Glendale, whatever, when they was playing the offside or whatever. He basically said it like our interior offensive line let us down. And that's what they did in the offseason. I mean, you draft Donovan Jackson. Like, come on now. It's like you did all that to solidify the offensive line. And one
Mhm.
of the biggest things that you need for a young developing quarterback is for him to be able to lean on a running game. Like he shouldn't have to be dropping back and passing so many times. And if you have 2 running backs like Jordan Mason and Aaron Jones, you could have been doing that a long time ago. That's what made me kind of like agitated about the situation because
Yep.
it shouldn't have came to that.
And Gil says it, offense, one-dimensional, pass-heavy offense. We saw how good this offense can be when JJ was in quarterback in the second half of the season when we were sticking to the run,
Mhm.
and when we were in 3rd and short type plays,
Yeah,
we're giving it to our guy who's good in short yardage situations, Jordan Mason, and we're getting those first downs, and we're extending drives, and now we're balanced as an offense to where the defense can't just hone in
right.
on one thing, and JJ's not having to try to win it with his arm. So,
Exactly.
yeah, you're right on, and Gil, thanks for the comment as well. I mean, we're all thinking that. So yes, there is some blame absolutely for KOC to put on his shoulders. When we look at the Detroit Lions, our last one in here, from the best of the basement this year, why they regressed. Detroit was, hey, they only went 2-4 in the NFC North. That's going to be a problem if you can't win your inside your division. Losses to playoff contenders like the Eagles, the Rams, and the Steelers. Yeah, they played a first place schedule, and that's why they had to play some of the teams that they did, but they lost a lot of close games. They were one of the best offensive teams in the league. They were top 5 in passing offense, top 5 in points scored. And this is a team that lost Ben Johnson as their offensive coordinator. They lost Aaron Glenn to the Jets. So they lost both offensive and defensive coordinators. And some of the, they're one of the most curious cases of Wyatt. And I put 8-8. Sorry, they went 9-8. But again, why this team ended up 9-8 is just mind-boggling because this team had tools on defense. This team had the tools on offense. One of the best, gosh, in that, like I said, top 5 points scored, but this was probably a top 3, top 2 offense in the league almost all season. So man, I mean, some heads should roll on their end. But questions for the offseason, do more changes need to be made in the coaching staff? They already fired their offensive coordinator. So they at least did that. So they know that they have to change in that aspect. They're also talking about Mike McDaniels coming
Yeah,
into the Lions.
I was about to
That
say
would
that.
be scary.
That would be
Uh,
scary for us,
yeah.
especially if we don't have Flores.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
don't want that. And
Right?
can this team get back on top with a much easier schedule in 2026? I think that is absolutely possible next
Yeah, it's
year for
fine.
them to go from worst to first
Yeah.
next season. What say you? Oh, and I gotta bring you back on. Sorry
Okay.
about that.
I think with them is if you look at them last year when they had Ben Johnson, they were able
Mhm.
to get a lead. They were able to, make plays down the field. The offense was humming. The offense kind of kept the defense honest. Now you have a point to where you see Jared Goff getting rattled again. I mean, he's getting pressured a whole lot more. And that happens, but they need to just get to the point where they can get back to, hey, running the ball with both their running backs, going down the field. I think Sam Laporta missed a lot of time this year too. So, and you had guys retire also on the offensive line. So if they can fill some of those holes, they can be back to those Detroit Lions where they can be blowing guys out. But at the same time, it's like sometimes teams have your number. Sometimes you're good for a couple of years and that window closes. They could be dealing with that right now.
Just a quick update. It's in the fourth quarter. You talk about sometimes teams have your number. Green Bay Packers.
Yeah.
They have the Bears number this year.
Bears number.
Yeah, they split during the season, but playing that third time is giving them the edge right now. It's 21-9. Doesn't look good. 13-29 left to go in that game for the Bears to try to catch up.
Bears are gonna be
And
going.
I'm rooting for the Bears. So I always got to root against the Packers. So all right, so moving on to our next topic that we have. All right, so the JJ McCarthy situation. All right, so JJ McCarthy, we know, hey, game 1 he wins against the Bears. Game 2 awful against the Falcons, gets hurt, and we get hurt 3 different times, a 4th time in that last Packers game, takes himself out of the game. But we go through at least a stretch of games, 14 through 16, that now we see actual growth and development. And yes, you actually said, Gil, when KOC said he dumbed down the offense, he, maybe not necessarily in those terms, but simplified. But yes, probably same terms, but
Hey, I gotta
simplified the offense, right?
I gotta say this.
Yep.
Now, we gotta stop throwing around the whole dumb down, simplify the offense. If you look at the offense, the problem with the offense was timing because the
The tempo, yeah.
offensive linemen had to hold their blocks too long. And some of you guys, are looking on my stream. You guys know I've been talking about this for the past couple of seasons with Kevin O'Connell and these long developing plays downfield. If you look at what made the Vikings offense a whole lot, more effective when Kevin O'Connell, quote unquote, dumbed it down, what he did is he got rid of all the extra stuff that wasn't needed. He got rid of the double motions, the double moves down the field, like all that extra stuff that was needed. And that's just what you have to do for your young quarterback. You have to allow the players around him. If you have a Justin Jefferson, who's arguably the best receiver in the league, allow him to beat one-on-ones. Allow him to break the zone coverage. You got TJ Hawkinson in the middle. You have to allow these guys. Kevin O'Connell got to the point where it was more scheme, not beating guys one-on-one. And that's what he actually meant by dumbing it down, by actually just going out there, running the ball, not too many double moves, and all that extra stuff. And that's what happened. But then once the team started winning, he went right back to that. And that's the problem. Because if you look at the game, what was the game? I forgot when Max Brosmer played, not the Seattle game, but the other game after the Giants. Look at what he starts the game. Detroit. He starts the first play of the game. He starts it with a double motion play action and 2 double moves down the field. that led to a sack. That's the problem.
Well,
Like,
when your offensive line is hurt, you don't
yeah,
have enough time for some of those
yeah,
longer plays to
you
develop
don't
like that.
exactly, like, that's the problem right there. Like,
Mhm.
you started the game with that, and that drive ended in a 3 and out and the sack on 3rd down. Then the second
Justin
drive,
Skol is not Christian Darrisaw. He cannot hold up that long.
yeah, it's just that's what I'm saying. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, I just hate when people be like, "Oh, JJ wasn't ready. That's why he had to dumb it down." No, it's not that he wasn't ready. You can't do certain things when you don't have, the talent on your roster. You have to be able to coach for what you have.
Right.
Like, that's just how it works. So go ahead, man. I just get tired of people with the dumb it down situation. Like, oh,
No, I
JJ, like, nah, it's not the dumb it down. It's
I
more
mean,
to it than that.
and you're right. He did do those things, and I think some of it was, obviously they were trying to change some of his mechanics
Can't do that.
mid-season. So I think some of that simplifying was also just, hey, play free. Don't think about that stuff. Play a ball.
Yeah,
Go out there, complete the pass. Whatever those changes were, that was working 14 through
right.
16. So we did see. I mean, I don't want to call it that he played great now in that Packers game. So yes, he's got a fracture in the hand. And Paul Allen talked about it too. That, it's not a good look taking yourself out of the game, but at the same time, that's not all. I don't know how much we want to say like, hey, he got hurt again. He was already hurt.
He was already hurt.
He was
Tried to
playing
tough
hurt
through it.
in
Yeah,
the game. Yeah, he's trying to tough through it. And um, so you got to take that a little bit in consideration because it's his throwing hand. He was still playing. I would like to say okay. He made some questionable decisions. He had potentially 2 interceptions that could have went the other way, or 2 balls that could have been interceptions in that Packers game. So again, he was making some passes where, it was great. That pass to tight end, and I know you talked about it with Paul to Sims, the tight end Sims.
yeah,
Holy cows!
yeah.
Even
It's
with
there,
a hurt, fractured hand, he
right?
was able to fire that ball. I mean, that was an incredible throw. And people that follow me on my timeline was just like, guys, wow. Like,
Yeah,
whether you hate JJ or not, that was an incredible throw.
right. The
Um,
talent is there.
he's got some talent there. He's got to reel in, the ability to make good decisions with the football and accuracy. I mean, that's the biggest thing with JJ McCarthy right now is making good decisions with the football and being more accurate with the football. If he can do those things, this is a football team that can have potentially the guy if
Yeah.
he can do that.
I think when we're talking about the injuries too, like, I think we have to be a little honest about this whole organization with the players of handling injuries this whole season. Look at what happened with Christian Darrisaw in and out the lineup. Look at what happened with Carson Wentz. He basically played on just one arm, basically. Look at
Yeah,
look at the biggest one that people don't talk about that kind of bothers me the most is the issue with Jordan Naylor, with Jalen Naylor. Jalen Naylor hurt his hand in the offseason and doing training camp or whatever. And they basically told him he wasn't going to be able to play week 1. But then he flies to LA and he goes and gets a second opinion and gets surgery and he plays week 1. Like, there's something going on with the training staff that's not right. Like that's just what I'm seeing, because it's like you're seeing guys come in and out the lineup. Guys are risking injury to go out there and try to gut it out. And for people to kind of come at JJ McCarthy for him coming out the game for already being injured with a hairline fracture on his throwing hand,
yeah,
like he didn't tear his ACL, he didn't hurt his other hand. This was the injury he came into it, and he just
yeah.
said gut it out. Like, what's wrong with that? Like, people have this augmented reality of this. Oh, everybody needs to be tough guys. Well, some guys aren't tough guys like that. Sometimes it's best that you might need to get with the medical staff and sit down sometimes. Like, I'm not saying nothing bad about McCarthy for actually trying to play it out and be a tough guy, and then he couldn't do it. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, he didn't
Yes.
hurt his
You bring up a good point with
The training staff,
the training staff. So
they got to
Christian
bring.
Darrisaw, what was going on with Christian Darrisaw all year?
They
You
rushed
know,
him.
s-
They
they
rushed.
rushed him back, but then I'd rather just have him sit multiple games rather than what they were doing. And they kind of did the same thing um, with
With
Andrew Van Ginkel
exactly.
initially too, where
Yeah.
they were trying to play him like 9 plays a game
Yeah.
and snap counting, and then, hey, he's out the next week because he
That's
just couldn't go. Now, if you would have
what I'm
just kept
saying.
kept him out for a couple games,
He would
let
be
him
okay.
get completely healthy, because you can't get healthy if you're going out there and you're just re-injuring yourself and you're not giving it the time. So, absolutely. So whether that's training staff, combination of training staff and coaches making that decision,
Because I
uh,
think they're scared. I think the coaching staff in general, both sides of the ball, is they're scared to play their young guys because they didn't spend enough time developing them. And what I mean by that is like if you look at Josh Metellus, he had a shoulder injury also. But if Josh
mhm,
Metellus doesn't play, who do you have to play? Jay Ward, Theo Jackson,
right.
guys that really, and you're already short at corner. So like, what are you gonna do there? Like, look at the Darius Hall situation. Like they could have went out there and got a better, swing tackle. They thought School was that, but then
Mhm.
they didn't develop him or try to get him up to speed the right way. Or I don't understand why they just didn't put Blake Brandel at tackle that whole time when you had everybody else healthy. He was brought in here.
When Jurgens was healthy,
Yeah,
yes.
like he was like, I don't understand it. Why did you could have just put Brando there at tackle, but at the same time, it's just like there's a lot of wonky things going on with this team that's not being talked about, a lot. But I just see it through a different perspective, man. It's like I ask those questions because it's like there's no real development on this roster, and that's why these guys are forcing these injured players to play because what do they have after that? Who's their
Yeah,
backup?
yeah, I mean, you talked about Theo Jackson. He seemingly lost his job to Jay Ward,
Jay Ward.
throughout the season,
Mhm.
and, just kinda getting back on topic with JJ McCarthy. So, JJ in the season that he had, did he do enough to show the progression, and the development that his trajectory should he be the starter, or what type of quarterback do you think the Vikings need to bring in? Do they need to bring in somebody to compete to potentially be the starter, or do they need to bring in a quarterback, to be mentoring and be a backup? Also considering where we are with the salary cap.
You just need to get a good backup. Like if you get a good backup, you're gonna check all the boxes. That's what it comes down to. Like you can't go the offseason again just like you did last year, where you traded for Sam Howell during the draft. You find out Sam Howell can't play your offense, and then you wait until the season's about to start for you to sign Carson Wentz as your backup. You can't do that again. You need to go out there and make the backup quarterback a priority first.
Mhm.
That's how it has to be done.
Mythic Plague says the leadership, meaning coaching and GM, screwed the Vikings with no good choices at quarterback instead of going with a very green quarterback. Very well. They thought JJ was more ready than what he was. So they definitely overestimated that situation going into the season.
I think they played themselves. I think it showed that Kevin O'Connell and his coaching staff didn't really work with McCarthy as much as they said they would do was in the offseason. Because if you're talking about mechanics during the season, it's like, well, what did you work on during the offseason?
Mhm.
What did you work on? And then if you go back to the preseason and everything like that, like maybe that's the reason why you shouldn't have been playing him more preseason games. Like they were talking about the joint practices where we're looking good and everything like that. I mean, we don't see them because we're not the media and we're not, up in Minnesota. But I just asked the question, what was what were you guys doing? Like you had a whole joint practice against the New England Patriots. You couldn't see that his mechanics was a problem then. Like you
Yeah.
waited, like what is the like? That's just how I see it. Like what are
He's
we
talking
talking?
about preseason, right?
Yeah, it's the preseason. That's when you have time to do that. Like if it's mechanics, so you're telling me after the the Atlanta game, that's when you realized his mechanics was bad. No, you knew his mechanics was bad all along. You guys just didn't work on it.
Yeah, so, Gil says that's not the question we should ask, Steve. Is this the type of offense KOC wants to run, or is he gonna go back to his old ways?
He's gonna go
You
back to
know,
those days.
he quite possibly will do that. I mean, he's shown that he likes to, we saw that during the season. You mentioned it earlier, D Wood. So, but
Yeah,
yeah, I do think it's a fair question to ask that, hey, did they think JJ was more ready than what he was? And just like D Woods and I just talked about here too, in the off season, I mean, there were plenty of opportunities to
just to
address
figure
some of
out.
those mechanics option. And same thing this off season. If JJ McCarthy is not working with Jefferson, Naylor, Addison, and Ty Felton, if he's not working with those receivers throughout the offseason to make sure that drops and being able to catch a JJ McCarthy fastball is not an issue during the season, somebody should be let go for not making that happen to make sure that those guys are trying to get together
Yeah,
with each other.
yeah. I just believe like when it comes to McCarthy's development, like he can only do so much by himself, right? Like he needs some type of guidance, to help him out. I remember when reports came out about Caleb Williams and basically saying like, "Hey, these guys just put me in a room and told me to look at film." I kind of feel like, the organization for the Vikings did the same thing to McCarthy. Like they just put him in a room, gave him the playbook, and they never really like put him to the test when it was time to do anything. And then when the season came and the bullets are flying, it's like, oh, now we got to work on this. And that's just why I'm saying like there's changes that need to be made, on this offensive side of the ball, determining like the offensive coaches and that coaching staff, because it's like, what are we doing? Like, does KOC actually really need a bailout, but going to get another veteran quarterback just to bail him out? And I just believe like this though, like if you were going to do that, then why is he here? Like
Yeah,
if like think about it, like why is he here? And I asked this question. I'm gonna ask you to this, Steve.
yeah.
What's the difference from when Mike Zimmer left to right now? What's changed?
Mindset. I think this team. If you want to talk playoffs, I mean that's not much there, right?
I'm just saying
But
if you really think about it, like what's the difference?
KOC is more player centric than Zimmer is for sure.
Maybe
And, I want to say that at least the mindset of Mike Zimmer, he was a little bit more, I would say a little bit more brash and harder on the team.
I think the team needs that right now too. So what I'm trying to say is this, though, right? When Mike Zimmer left, the team had a quarterback situation. Kirk
Mhm.
Cousins was there, and everybody knew Kirk Cousins wasn't the guy, for the foreseeable future. He wasn't a franchise quarterback. The defense was aging. You had offensive line issues. You had one great receiver, and you don't really know what you got left. I mean, we can say Addison, but he's in trouble, and he's coming off a down year, right? So if you look at the roster and you look at like the state of the franchise going forward, we kind of are in the same situation we were when we fired Mike Zimmer and Rick Spielman. Like the salary cap is bad.
It's true.
Like it's if you think about it, it's kind of the same situation. Like
Mhm.
we can say the culture is good and everybody likes each other, but you're not out there winning games. You're losing games. It's the same situation. Running game
Yeah.
is bad.
Yeah. And I mean, we gotta first we gotta get to the dance, right? So we,
Yeah,
we gotta get to the dance. We gotta get to the playoffs. And then we have to be able to win playoff games. Mythic Plague saying it too. Hey, playoffs, we got to get there, right?
playoffs.
And we got some comments in here too, like Mike Zimmer is a better coach than Kevin O'Connell. That might be a conversation to be had, absolutely. But what I will say is you got to put some onus on JJ McCarthy as well here. He's got
Yeah,
to be able to
stay
be
healthy.
healthy, right? He's got to be available for this team, be able to win. And especially if we're going to end up bringing in a quarterback that's going to be a backup instead of someone to compete that can come in there and win games. And then two, or three, maybe, we need to make sure that JJ McCarthy, you got to be able to, you're the only one that's actually able to throw the ball on the field. KOC can't throw it for you, so you making good decisions with the football, making sure that we're not one of the top teams on giveaways, holding the ball too long, causing fumbles, pick sixes. We just can't have that. So
I'm
making
okay.
good decisions with the ball.
I'm okay with that.
Well, pick sixes?
I'm okay with that because this is what I believe. Like I said this earlier during the offseason last year that I figured McCarthy was going to lead the league in picks the first 7 weeks, and people were killing me for it. They're like, "Why are you saying that? That means McCarthy sucks." It's like, no, it doesn't. That means he's going to have to figure out how to get that ball in tight windows, and the only way you figure that out is if you actually take the chance. And like you have to be. You can't get out there and get gun shy. You can't do it. And I just feel like I'm okay with JJ, going through the progressions, going through the growing pains. I'm okay with it. Because like and I ask Viking fans this all the time, if we want JJ to be the guy, he's gonna have to go through the growing pains.
Absolutely.
We saw him last year. And as a friend and us as a fan base, we're gonna have to go through it because aren't you guys tired of the mercenary quarterbacks? Every time it's time for us to basically, be a perennial playoff team, we got to get a veteran quarterback from somebody else's team to come in here and be our quarterback savior. Like that's how the Vikings have always been, for the past 20-something seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is the first time we drafted a quarterback top 10, and let's see what happens.
And I'm with you on that. So we'll take a look at these quarterbacks, and I'm in the same camp you are. And anyone that follows me on social media or have seen my podcast in the past, I've been preaching, hey, some patience, and that this fan base isn't used to grooming and developing a young quarterback. You're going to go through lows, and that's kind of why I was bringing in some of the Bears went through this with like a Caleb Williams. The Packers even have dealt with some of this with Jordan Love.
Yeah.
On a different level, but definitely we're in the low period, and hopefully there is much higher highs with JJ McCarthy, but we don't know if we're willing to give up this early on JJ McCarthy. You just don't know.
Right.
We won't know until probably at the end of next season of what we really have with JJ McCarthy.
Right.
So I'm with you. I'm in the camp that we should bring up somebody. Now, I'm not saying we can't bring in somebody to push him, but I think that firmly JJ McCarthy should be given the opportunity to again play again next year and show that he is or is not the guy. We traded up in the first round to go get him, right? So we gave away a little bit more draft capital to move up one more spot because we felt that confident that we needed to get JJ.
Right.
We didn't keep Sam Darnold, and we moved off of Kirk Cousins because we were trying to get a young quarterback. So if this is the direction that we went, let's stick to our guns and find out if he's the guy. And if we're wrong, we're wrong.
And Steve, I got to ask you this though, right? Kevin O'Connell was brought in here to identify, develop the quarterback for the future of the Minnesota Vikings. When I see fans talk about trading for Joe Burrow or Kyler Murray or any quarterback of the week, and I'm gonna say any quarterback of the week because I get tired of it. Any quarterback of the week. That's not the reason why McCarthy. That's not the reason why O'Connell was brought in here. You brought in a guy that was a quote unquote quarterback guru, and his job was to identify. And I'm gonna keep saying identify, develop a quarterback for the future. And this is the first time where he's actually tasked with developing a quarterback. Because if you look at all the quarterbacks he's had success with, not Carson Wentz, but Sam Darnold, veteran at that point. And he was in Shanahan's offense the year before. Kirk Cousins, veteran at that point. Like Matthew Stafford, veteran when he was with the Rams. This is the first time Kevin O'Connell has to sit back and develop a quarterback. And if he can't do it, I have to be honest with that and say, then maybe we got the wrong guy as the person identifying the quarterback. Because like that's how I look at it.
Absolutely. And I've seen some of the comments that Steve's a KOC guy. I'm just in the same camp. I'm going to look at it from the same lens as I'm looking with JJ McCarthy. And just like you said, this is the first time he's had to develop a rookie quarterback, right? So I'm going to give him a little bit of grace as well, too. And going into next season, I need to see that he can develop a young quarterback. So he went in with his approach this season. It wasn't the right approach. He needs to be able to show this next year that he can develop a young quarterback. Otherwise, this year I didn't think KOC was on the hot seat, but next year, if he can't develop JJ McCarthy, and we have another repeat season, I do think KOC is on the hot seat. I do think that that's a possibility, but I have to give him a little bit of a grace period with what happened this season with JJ getting hurt as many times as he did, missing the games that he did, and with the offensive line really just being a mess the entire season. So I'm not saying he gets a complete pass on the season. I'm just saying it's not like he had the whole season to work with JJ McCarthy and work through different things. That's all I'm saying on the KOC
we talk
side.
about the offensive line, right? And I have this issue with the offensive line. I understand you can't predict injuries and stuff like that. But if you look at the offensive lines, the linemen that the Vikings passed on or even traded away, that's 5 guys. 5 guys that could be playing swing tackle, swing guards that are not here. Like if you look, everyone gets on here and they criticize Kwesi for the draft picks, but Ed Ingram started 2 years consistently, never was hurt, and he goes to Houston and is basically one of the top guards in the league. People got on here and they complained about Gary Bradbury being too small and being forklift every time. I think he plays tomorrow for the New England Patriots as the starting center.
They were complaining about Ed Ingram too, right?
You know what I'm saying? I mean, you have Adarian Lowe, who you drafted in the 6th round of the 22 draft, and you traded him away to New England, and he's their swing tackle, which you already said Justin Skol can't do it. But you had a swing tackle in-house that you could have developed, but you traded him away. You had Ezra Cleveland, who you traded away because you wanted to bring in somebody cheaper in Dalton Reisner, and he plays tomorrow too for the Jacksonville Jaguars, right? And like you have all these guys that are playing well elsewhere that the Vikings drafted. I mean, we're sitting there watching this Bears games right now. Andrew Booth was traded for Noshawn Wright. He couldn't get on the field for some reason, to play corner. So it's kind of like, yeah, we can say that the offensive line was not healthy this year and everything like that. But if you think about it and we go back to every offseason, the offensive line, we've been talking about that. Like, when is it going to change? And I think the only why the offensive line is going to change if Kevin O'Connell changes the play calling. You get what I'm saying? Like those long development plays down the field, you have to change something schematically to kind of make these offensive linemen not have to block so much. You not hold their block so much. And when I talk to offensive linemen, they say one of the main problems with the Vikings is offensive linemen want to go forward, not backwards all the time. So if you run the ball and they want to
bulldoze a little bit. Yeah,
exactly. They want to get nasty a little bit. And if you don't do that, you're going to have problems. Like you went out and you spent money on Ryan Kelly and Will Fries. And I'm not sure if you're a PFF guy. I don't really like PFF that much, but I just use it as a marker because people's the PFF grade, right? If you look at Ed Ingram's PFF grade against Will Fries, they're basically the same guy. And you gave Will Fries all that money when you already had him on your roster.
Offensive line coach, right? Probably a conversation that we need to have, right?
That's what I'm saying. Like you gotta call it out for what it is, man. Like
absolutely.
I'm just honest and transparent, man. Like that's just how I see it, man. Like we gotta stop with the same excuses, man, with it being the offensive line. That was a problem last year.
So if we got to pick out a couple guys from this list, not this list. If we got to pick out a couple guys from this list here, as far as who's potentially on the table and available next year, who do you like from this list?
Zach Wilson. I like Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson. Anyone else that, if you had to pick 2 or 3?
Jimmy Garoppolo.
And the reason why you're not seeing players on this like
Joe Burrow
is, let's be realistic. We're not seeing Justin Herbert on, they're not getting rid of those players. And
I'm gonna put
unless they're trying to ask for a trade and they're saying, hey, I want out. And that's what like they're coming straight out and
Right.
demanding and forcing a trade. Those guys are not leaving their organizations.
I'm gonna put a nugget in your ear, and I want you to think about this. If you look at some of the players that KLC trades for or signs, either a quarterback or running back, look at where those players come from. Aaron Jones, Matt LaFleur, same offense.
Mhm.
We had a good year with Sam Darnold, Kyle Shanahan, same offense. So I asked the question, what is KLC? What can KLC teach? Because if he's actually having to go pick from, Shanahan or the floor, then what is he teaching? Because the whole thing with Mac Jones is, Mac Jones
Those are similar system
exactly,
quarterbacks. Yeah,
exactly. But like, what are we saying here? Like, you have to pick from your guys, because whatever you're doing in Minnesota outside of that is not registering with anybody. That's just how I look at it. Like, it's weird. Jordan Mason came from where? Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah. Niners, yeah.
Right? So it's like, come on, like what are we doing here? Like, it has to get better.
Yeah, Mythic Plague says Mac Jones, Bridgewater, Wentz, Keenum, Flacco are the ones I would wish for. Even Cousins. I didn't put Cousins on here just because, money situation wise, unless he's going to get rid of that contract, we don't want that. I hear people calling for Teddy, but again, I'm past. Yeah, I'm past the Teddy. For me, when I take a look at this list, I'm actually, depending on the price tag on some of these, in Davis Mills would attract me as a potential option. I don't think it's even a possibility. Malik Willis is on this, but I think he's going to be competing for a starting position. He's in a similar position that we saw Daniel Jones. Some people had mentioned Daniel Jones. Why is he not on those? He's going to be a Colt next year. All right.
And he can't play next year.
And he's not going to come back here to not be a starter, because it's going to be the same conversation.
Daniel Jones can't play. He broke one leg and he ruptured his Achilles on the other.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm out on Daniel Jones for next year. That's where I'm at. Other individuals that I might be okay with coming in here and being a backup. So we're talking about, because that's where we're at, right, D Woods?
Yeah,
we want to see another year, right?
Another year.
We talk about the system, right? I'd be okay bringing in Jimmy G as a possibility, because he's a system quarterback in that system. He's experienced and can actually do some mentoring in that system, right?
Right. And you got him on here twice, so I think you.
I did. I apologize. Yeah, you're right. I do have him on here twice.
I think you really like him.
Yeah, so I must really like him. I'd even be okay. I talked about this with a couple other people. I think Skol Geek, I think, and I talked about it too. Joe Flacco, I'd be okay with that one too. If he can still play, he's getting a little bit old for me to be in that. But I like Davis Mills. I think Davis Mills also gives you the opportunity to, say if you had to pivot, there might be something there with Davis Mills. So that Rivers, no, sorry, in the comments. So those ducks I saw him throwing. I can't believe that went 3 games.
Now, there's some guys on the list that I just feel like Jalen Miro, they developing him in Seattle. He's not going nowhere.
Same.
He's staying.
These are names that have been brought up.
Yeah. Tua Tagovailoa, he's left-handed.
Okay, so this might come up next year. Where are you at on Aaron Rodgers? There's people on one side, they're like, man, even though everyone hated that. What's that?
I hear he's going back to the Steelers, regardless of win or lose.
I think he might as well, but let's just say that's on the table, because people are starting rumors again. Let's just say he wants to come to Minnesota next year. Aaron Rodgers isn't going to come here to be a back, so that means we're going to take another year, and we're going to say, hey, we're going to roll with Rodgers, and we're going to let JJ sit a year. Are you willing to do that?
No.
Okay.
I'm like the main guys I like on this list. I don't really like Davis Mills. I think Davis Mills should stay where he's at, Spencer Rattler, I'm cool. Tua's left-handed because I just believe like people don't understand how hard it is to develop left-handed quarterbacks. You have to switch everything, and like it's extremely hard. If Kevin O'Connell can't run the ball consistently, I don't think he can work with a left-handed quarterback. Kenny Pickett is cool, but I haven't seen him. Jameis Winston will be fun, but like the two guys I like off this list, man, is Zach Wilson and Jimmy Garoppolo.
I gotta pause for a second. Aiden Chris, appreciate you, man.
Yeah, Bears are coming back. I'm watching it too. Yeah,
27-24.
Yeah.
Did the Bears just score?
Yeah, they just scored, and
so it's gonna be a Packers ball with 4:18 left to go. Bears need to get a stop. They got all 3 timeouts. Holy cow! All right, so we got to pay attention to this a little bit on the side. Thanks, Aiden. I appreciate that. That's awesome.
Hey, in the chat, I see Shaq in here. Shaq, you said Justin Fields. I don't think Justin Fields fits the mold for Kevin O'Connell.
Yeah, same here. I'm out on him. Mariota. I don't think that. I don't mind him, but I just don't think he's this type of offense of a quarterback. I don't know if that's a right fit. As far as also somebody that can groom our guy. So
when you're asking about grooming McCarthy, how do you feel about Josh McCown? Do you think Josh McCown did a good job this year with Kevin O'Connell? Because if you look at the quarterback coach that was here before, and Greg Drudzinski, who's left to be the OC in Jacksonville, I'm hearing word that the preparation was not there this year, and some of that went out the door with him. And I'm just like, when we have this conversation about McCarthy, I just start to hear more and more things about them not preparing him the right way. I'm really starting to hear that, because if Greg Drudzinski was the guy preparing the quarterbacks from week to week, and Josh McCown, isn't doing it, and he didn't do it to a certain extent, it's like, hey, maybe we need to make a change like quarterback coach too.
So the Vikings messed up in letting Greg Drudzinski go. So what they should have done is they should have found a way to keep him, whether that be promote him, possibly even make him the offensive coordinator if they needed to do that.
They could have fired him.
Probably should have been. You're hearing reports. Again, these are rumors. But you're seeing the same thing I'm seeing.
Right.
That we should have, there are, at least this is supposedly coming out of the Vikings camp, that we should have done whatever we needed to do to keep Greg Drudzinski. So if that's the case, they're missing that. They're missing that.
Yeah, it's sometimes you don't know what you miss until it's gone.
Absolutely. And all right, so moving on, we're going to go into topic 3 now. There's a lot of stuff we could probably talk on the JJ situation, but Brian Flores, is it time to panic yet? And the reason I ask that is, so now I did an article on this too, and
a unique stance on this.
So I also write for purpleptsd.com. One of the articles I did on Brian Flores is, also who I think should possibly replace him. And one of the individuals that I recommended was, basically his protege in the defense, which is Durante Jones. And now with Brian Flores, he's got a couple different interviews here lined up. Now, I'm not hearing that he's a front runner for any of those jobs, which is also interesting.
Everybody waiting on Harbaugh.
Yep. So I'm not hearing that he's and Stefanski potentially too is possibly a lead front runner in some of these jobs. So with Brian Flores, possibly leading us in a holding pattern, if you will. Now Durante Jones, the Cowboys are going after Durante Jones. We're seeing Durante. So we're possibly going to be in the position, because we're waiting on Brian Flores, that we can miss on Durante Jones and Brian Flores. Is it time to panic yet?
I think Viking fans need to chill. And when I say we need to chill on Brian Flores, is we got to read the room, and we got to understand what we are dealing with when we brought in Brian Flores. He was going to always have an expiration date. He was never going to coach the Minnesota Vikings defense for an extensive long time. I'm still surprised he did it for 3 seasons. And if you look at Brian Flores' resume, the guy already has four titles with New England as a DC, or some capacity as a defensive coach. Now, he's talks multiple times about it only being 32 teams in the league, and he would love to be a head coach again. And I hear people say, hey, throw the bag at him, give him a lot of money. It doesn't matter. If he wants to go be a head coach somewhere, he's going to go be a head coach somewhere, regardless of you trying to give him a fancy title or, more money. At the end of the day, he wants to be a head coach. He wants to be able to run his own organization. And we should be at this point right now. We should be preparing ourselves for Brian Flores to leave. We should be looking at guys like Jonathan Gannon. We should be looking at guys like Raheem Morris or even Swartzy, Jim Swartz. We should be looking at guys like that because Brian Flores has already said multiple times that he wants to be a NFL head coach, and the Vikings can't block him from that. There's a reason why he didn't sign an extension where he's a free agent right now, where he can go anywhere without the Vikings say so. So I'll just say it's sometimes things come to an end. And I'm not trying to say Brian Flores isn't a good head coach because I think he's a great coach, but there comes a time where he's going to leave. And that time might be this season. Now, if he doesn't get offered a head coaching job and he wants to wait to next season, then we're going to have the same conversation next season. But eventually Brian Flores is going to leave, and Vikings need to figure something out outside of Brian Flores. They need to be having conversations in the front office thinking about Brian Flores' departure because it's going to happen.
So I'm with you on this. So when we take a look at these head coach openings, there's 8 different openings out here. And when I take a look at these for at least, and if I'm Brian Flores, the article I wrote, I don't think he leaves for some of these bottom tier jobs.
I got one guy. I got one place where he's going.
Okay. So I think the Raiders and the Ravens are key locations for him. Yes. I think the Falcons could be a possible job for him too. I think those are the 3 jobs that he'd be interested in taking. I don't know about the other ones, but I think those are the 3 jobs. But I just think that there's too many this year. And the thing I worry about, and just like you said, we have to prepare for him not being the head coach here. Prepare for him not being the defensive
you said it right
here in this job, right?
You said it right.
Yeah.
Brian Flores knows they're not going to fire Kevin O'Connell to make him the head coach. So the only way he's going to be the head coach here if Kevin O'Connell get fired, and that's not going to happen.
It's possible next year.
Next year, right? Unless he stays next year, but he, it happens. I just think if you look at what happened in Miami with Brian Flores, right? The owner wanted Tua. Tua wasn't ready yet. He didn't really like Tua as a quarterback, and he wanted more say so. The whole losing game situation, in my opinion, the best situation for Brian Flores will be the Las Vegas Raiders because they have the first overall pick. They can either pick a quarterback there, and they have over $100 million in cap space, which meaning the holes that they have on their roster, they will be able to fill it. They will be able to get help on the offensive line. They'll be able to get a couple of receivers, a couple of defensive players, that Brian Flores would like, and they will have enough money to go out there and sign a top quarterback to basically mask over to be a stopgap quarterback for whenever they draft a quarterback. That situation is great for Brian Flores because he will have full control of constructing his own team the way he wants to. And if you look at those other destinations, they already have quarterbacks in place. Baltimore already has Lamar Jackson.
So Aiden Chris brings up Raheem Morris. You brought up Jonathan Gannon as well. Those are possible backfills. Taronte Jones is out there too. So those are different candidates. Now, the first question that I have is, should we be trying to hire a defensive coordinator? We know Brian Flores is shopping.
Yeah.
I would be shocked if we're not. Why are we not? And I get that he's still our defensive coordinator, but should we be trying to interview people right now?
Yes.
Because right now we're behind the game, and that's where I'm at. I feel like we should be holding interviews for Justin. I don't even know. Should we hire before he even takes a job?
I think everybody's in a standstill right now. I think the Jim Harbaugh situation kind of shocked everybody and put everybody else on the back burner. We kind of knew Stefanski was going to get fired out there in Cleveland. But I think the first domino that has to drop has to be, where Jim Harbaugh is going to go. And I think once Jim Harbaugh goes somewhere, then we're going to kind of see like, hey, then we're gonna see Brian Flores have more interviews and stuff like that. But I just think like the whole coaching carousel is put on hold to wait and see what happens with Harbaugh.
but not the defensive coordinator carousel. So what's happening with some of these other teams that need defensive coordinators, like the Cowboys, is they're getting whoever they want right now, and they're going to be able to offer
Yeah,
before
but
we're even done.
if you're a DC and if you want to be a DC under Harbaugh, or you want to be like Durante Jones, if they don't give him the money that he wants or whatever demands that he would want with the Cowboys, he might want to follow Flores. You know, like you never know.
I mean, it's possible. I just think, with Durante Jones, I don't think he wants to be defensive coordinator under Flores. And that's only because I don't think he thinks he will be able to call the defense like when Brian Flores was head coach at the Dolphins. He called the defense. So I think let's just say it doesn't go well for Brian Flores, the next head coaching gig. And if he's the defensive coordinator, it kind of like what happened previously with Kansas City. And man, I wrote about this and now I'm spacing on his name. But anyways, the offensive coordinator that used to be our running backs coach that was down there. Bieniemy. When Bieniemy went down there, and then when he was interviewing for jobs, they were like, well, you didn't even call the plays in Kansas City.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with Durante Jones. If he wants jobs, future defensive coordinator jobs, people are going to say, well, you didn't even call the defense, Brian Flores. So how can we give you credit for that? True. So if I'm Durante Jones and I want to build my resume in my career, I probably want to go somewhere as a defensive coordinator, especially if I'm getting job offers where I'm going to be the guy and I'm going to get the credit for the defense that I call. And I'm going to get to call it the way that I want to call it. So if I'm Durante, that's what I want to do instead of being in Brian Flores' shadow.
That's true. I get that. So maybe he does go to the Cowboys. I just think maybe the DCs is out there. The Vikings, just they're stuck right now. They stuck in the wait and see approach. But I think Flores might be gone.
and do we get left out in the cold? Because we're waiting too long for Brian Flores, and then Brian's gone, Durante's gone, Raheem Morris is gone, Gannon's gone.
Yeah,
that could happen to us.
Call Zimmer back.
And it might be Mike Pettin who ends up as our defensive coordinator because all the options are gone.
Exactly. Yeah, that is true. That is true.
So I mean, that's the only thing that I am panicking about is, to me, it looks like that could happen to us for where we are at right now. Now, if you have those options of those different defensive coordinator options, if Brian Flores does leave, Durante Jones, we'll throw Mike Pettin's name in there, Raheem Morris, Jonathan Gannon as an option, Jared Mayo. What's the name?
Good.
Now, I did hear one, and he's a defensive guy out of the Broncos, and I'm spacing on the name with the Broncos, but there's also a guy out there that somebody had brought up to me, and I'm totally spacing on it right now. But anyways, there's some good options out there. I want to say it was Rhino from the Uncensored podcast had brought that up to me. But anyways, there's some different options. Who would you choose if Brian Flores is not here?
Gannon. It's my first choice.
Okay.
I like Gannon a lot. I mean, he was already on staff under Zimmer back in the day. What he did with Philadelphia Eagles, even though he didn't get a chance to get the Super Bowl ring because he left, I think, he had a raw deal out there in Arizona. Their quarterback can't play. So it's kind of hard for him, but he's at the top of my list. After that, I'm not sure if Jim Schwartz follows Stefanski, or even maybe he's offered the head coaching position, in Cleveland. You never know with that. But those two guys are like at the top of my list. Like, because those guys show that they can kind of mold defenses with different type of talent if Flores leaves. But just like I said before, maybe you want Flores to leave, so you won't have to deal with this next year.
That's true. So you bring up a good point. So now, if we do bring in Jonathan Gannon or Raheem Morris, do they not still have the same kind of want to be a head coach again?
Raheem Morris, he struck out twice. If he strikes out again, he'll never get a job again. So I mean,
I hear you.
I'm not saying he won't ever get a coaching job,
Yeah.
but he might have to sit, a couple of years before he can even think about getting another head coaching job because he got the Tampa Bay job early, flamed out, and then he rebuilt his career and was a coordinator in multiple places, and then flamed out again, in Atlanta. So I don't think Raheem Morris is going to be looking for a head coaching job anytime unless we go to the Super Bowl.
Sure.
And the defenses are good, and then everybody got to poach
I think
in.
for me, I like Durante Jones, maybe first, just because I think he would stick with the similar type of style as we're seeing with Brian Flores. I like Raheem Morris after that, and then maybe a Jonathan Gannon type guy.
So
that's kind of where I'm at. And
over Gannon,
I think Durante Jones has been in this defense. I think he knows the player personnel that we have, and he's been in that locker room. I think the players trust him as well.
Okay.
And from everything I've heard, and the fact that you look at the Cowboys are trying to go after him too. So other people in the league, he was getting defensive coordinator, interviews even before this year. So this isn't the first time he's been looked at for it. So it's not like this is the first time he's been up for it. So and he's a very experienced position coach in the league as well. And you just don't know. These guys don't become defensive coordinators without being position coaches. It's not just so they got to start somewhere.
I just ask you this: like, what is the defense going to look like next year? The reason, one of the main reasons why I want Gannon is I want to get past this whole Brian Flores situation. And there's no slight against him, but this defense is going to look really different next year. Harrison Smith is not here.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, Harrison Smith is not going to be here. You only have 2 corners on this roster right now.
Mm-hmm.
Your middle linebackers are aging. I mean, what are you going to do with Grenard, Van Ginkel, and Turner? Because you need to find a way to get all 3 of them on the field at the same time. I mean, your interior defensive tackles. I mean, what's going to go there is like that's kind of the reason why I'm not trying to hold on to Durante Jones, because I'm like, I might need to bring somebody in here who has the experience of calling the defense and constructing the defense. I might need to trust that more. That's why I'm saying Gannon, because it's like these guys might have to rebuild defense. The Bears just scored. Bears up.
Shut up.
Yeah,
30-27. There's still a lot of time left, though. There's still a minute 43 left to go in the game.
But Bears just scored. Yeah. Aiden, you don't know what's going to happen with Eric Wilson. So if we're trying to hold on to what happened last year might not even be accessible because it's going to be a whole new defense. And I would rather trust somebody who's constructed a defense from scratch before versus somebody who's, just like you said, just been in Brian Flores' shadow.
Mm-hmm. I mean, good points. When we take a look at salary cap casualties on this team, we've heard names like Aaron Jones, potentially TJ Hawkinson.
Yeah.
We've Javon Hargrave. We've heard his name, or possibly Jonathan Allen.
Yeah.
So I don't think both of them. One of them stays.
One of them gone.
So there's different arguments as far as Hargrave or Allen, which one has had a better year versus which one affects, which one's more easily able to drop their contract to be a salary cap casualty. But, between those guys, one of them are probably going to be gone next year. And that's, that's too bad. I mean, we brought them in on bigger contracts. They're going to cost a lot next year. But like you said, are we good with Jay Ward, Theo Jackson situation? Probably not. So we got to be good in the draft. Yep. We got to be good in the draft. So I think we for sure. So those of you doing mock drafts out there, I think, there's definitely going to be probably a corner in our future, if not a safety in our future. Early in the draft in those first 3 rounds, there's got to be a player in there. And then I think at least on the inside defensive line, I think we do like LDR a lot.
Yeah.
I think
Elijah Williams.
they like what we have in Tyrion Ingram Dawkins.
Mhm.
Elijah Williams looks like, and I'm hoping just his
Jalen
trajectory just goes
Jalen
like
Redmond.
crazy, and he
Yeah.
ends up being a Jalen Redmond type
Yeah.
guy where he shows some flashes and he comes in next year and it's just like, hey, we're ready to let the guy go, because he looked like an animal early on in the season. So I'm hoping that's the case too. And you bring up good points too. And I don't think we're anywhere close. Like, we love Andrew Van Ginkel. Jonathan Grenard has been talked as a possibility as a trade candidate, but I'd like to keep him. I'd like to keep him, but we'll see what happens.
Are you are you a basketball guy?
Yeah.
I always throw the analogy when people are talking about Bernard and Turner. I'm a big Laker fan, Kobe guy, of course, right? When Kobe was drafted, there were multiple guys in front of him, right? You had Serge Savalas, you had A.D. Jones, and you had Nick Van Exel. Kobe could play all three positions, right? But he was always going to be that backup until you move those veteran guys for him to actually succeed. And even though he had his shortcomings, early in his career, but you had to give him the opportunity to play consistently. I just feel like Dallas Turner can be that guy, but we're never going to see him be that guy if Grenard is going to be in the way.
Yeah, and if you're asking me to pick between Grenard and Van Ginkel at this point, I'm choosing Van Ginkel. Now, Grenard, he did a really good job in creating pressure. Just my issue this year with Grenard was just he didn't finish. We had way too many like almost sacks. And I know you pay attention to social media too, JG, but I love you. It's just the finishing, man. We got to see the finished sacks. So I mean, that's a possible person on the chopping block as well.
Yeah.
So you talked about it, and someone else mentioned Eric Wilson. I think absolutely the way that he played this year, bring him back.
Draft a linebacker too. Two of them. You still got to bring some young talent in there for the middle.
Kobe King didn't turn out as we thought he may. We thought we'd see some playing time this year, and he's no longer on the roster. So that's the thing. Caleb Downs has been mentioned. Caleb Downs isn't going to be on the board when we get to pick.
I have to say this right now. I'm looking at this Green Bay game. Matthew Golden is having a game right now, and he hasn't done anything all season.
He's got his first touchdown of the year.
Yeah, he looks like the number one pick that he was last year in the draft. Come on, kid. Keep going. Keep playing good. I know I'm rooting for a Packer, but he wasn't getting the opportunities. And he's getting them right now. He's playing good. I just don't like the number 0, man. Just get 10 or something like that. I hate the number 0 on the field. I don't understand it.
I kind of liked when everyone saw him as a bust, but
kid's good. He can play.
Yeah, well, he got his first touchdown. We'll see what happens from here too. He's in his rookie season.
Yeah, he's in his rookie season.
That's interesting though. There's 55 seconds left to go in the game.
Wright got hurt.
Who just got hurt?
I think Noshawn Wright got hurt.
Oh, Noshawn Wright did. Ooh,
I'm not sure if he's still out there, but it dropped it. Yeah, this game is gonna go to the wire.
They're at midfield right now. They're at midfield right now. 55 seconds. There's plenty of time. They still got a timeout left too.
A field goal won't win it.
So, any other hot takes that you got that you want to talk about? I'd like to stay on until this game finishes. But
we talked about the coaching, talked about Brian Flores, and we talked about JJ McCarthy and cap casualties on offense.
Yeah.
All right. So a lot of people out there want to give up on TJ. I am not giving up on TJ. And the reason why I'm not giving up on TJ is who are you going to bring in that's going to give you the same value that you're getting from TJ? Because people always look at it as the receiving yards and everything like that. TJ Hawkinson has become one of a better blocking tight end in this league. He has been. And what he's been asked to do, when it's concerning of chipping and stuff like that, I mean, it's kind of like with the quarterback carousel that the Vikings have had. He hasn't had the consistency, of a quarterback that can find him in the middle of the field and stuff like that. You saw with Kirk Cousins, and even with Sam, to a certain extent because he wasn't healthy, he was coming off an injury. But you just don't come off of those, MCL, PCL, ACL injuries and be the same guy, the same year or the next year. It takes time. So what I'm saying is, if you try to bring, if you want to get rid of TJ Hawkinson and the guy that you bring in here, what if he can't block? What if he can't do this? What if he can't do that? Like, we got to always understand that there's different things asked of these players. And just because the stats are not always there, like I tell people all the time, like I work with guys that play fantasy football. I don't care about your fantasy team. Like I don't. I have guys telling me all the time, like, oh, Justin Jefferson is killing my fantasy league, then trade him. Because I don't care about that. Like, oh, TJ Hawkinson sucks because my fantasy team, like, there's more than playing tight end than just stats. It is.
Yeah, and TJ didn't have the consistency at quarterback, just like we didn't see that Justin Jefferson. He didn't see the numbers like you talked about. So, are we going to judge Justin Jefferson's, season based on he didn't put up the numbers? I think that's fair to say for TJ as well. All right. So one thing I thought about, I had like a wow, how did we not talk about this? But Jordan Addison, Jalen Naylor situation for next year.
Don't do it. Don't do
it. So, obviously we want to keep both. We'd love to keep both individuals. But in order for that to happen, one, we gotta shed cap room.
Right.
Two, we got to be able to outbid to keep Jalen Naylor if that's the case. But if we don't, is Ty Felton ready? Okay, yes. That's another conversation.
Yes.
And then for Jordan Addison, I don't think he had the type of season where he's ready to say, I want that big contract. I'm hoping he's saying, I want another season to prove, that way he can get a bigger contract. And that gives us at least one more season with him before he, we have to make the big payday. I'm hoping that's the case. What do you think?
I think Addison stays long term. I think they figure out what they're going to do with Jordan Addison as a number 2 receiver. I'm not worried about Addison leaving. Jalen Naylor at the same time. I think if he wants to go, then let him go, because we've seen Minnesota make the mistake with a number 3 receiver playing with number 2. We had that problem with what's his name, with KJ Osborne, where he was a number 3 with Adam Thielen, and then when he got to the number 2 role, it looked like he had stone hands and he couldn't get open. I mean, you drafted a guy in Ty Felton in the 3rd round to be your number 3. Let him be the number 3. Like, just let him be the number 3. Like, I don't understand like this fixation of, oh, we got to keep Jalen Naylor. Jalen Naylor's contract is up. You drafted Ty Felton in the 3rd round. Like, he needs to get an opportunity to play at some point. And people are saying like, oh, well, he has to beat the guy. But if the guy that he needs to beat is already a projected number 2, then he's not going to get on the field. He has to beat 3 guys to get on the field. So you need to make it easy for him, but you have to be more cautious with that situation. It's like, if you drafted him, then hey, let him play. Oh, the game's over. Oh, no. I thought it's 3 seconds left.
Yeah.
2 seconds left. 2 seconds left.
Oh,
Jordan, no, you just ran that. Ooh, hit the hand. Oh, it's over. They gotta score a touchdown. They going home.
Yep.
Let's
stay with us here.
1 o'clock. Let's see what happens.
I mean, this is an exciting game for a Green Bay Packers Chicago Bear.
7 seconds. So they got more time on this clock. They gave us some more time. Here we go. Aaron Rodgers ain't playing. So
they ain't getting the home cooking, that's for sure. Bears aren't getting that.
You wasted too much time. What are you doing? Throw the ball.
Oh man.
Oh man, what are you doing? Just If nothing's there, throw the ball, go to the next down.
So this is going to be a fair question now.
What were you? Oh my God, Jordan Love, man.
So Jordan Love.
What was that?
So these are some of the things that Packers fans, it's a final 31-27, Bears win. So this is a fair question for Packers fans, Now Jordan Love, it's hard to say. Yes, he threw for 4 touchdowns in this game, but he was also only 24 for 46. It's not like he was throwing the lights out in this game. So when we, looking, yes, I'm box score watching right now, so I get it. You have to watch the game type of deal. He didn't throw any interceptions, which that's kind of been his bugaboo. But this team wasn't able to beat, a division rival, Chicago Bears, and they had a huge lead. What was it, 21-6 at one point?
And the kicker missed the kick, 2 kicks too.
Yeah. So you blew this lead. The Bears come back and beat you in the playoffs, and you have the same result again as last year. So, I don't think that they're going to move off Jordan Love, but I'm sure there's going to be some more added frustration. They did not run the ball well in this game at all.
Can't say this though. I gotta say this.
Yep.
This is one thing we got to talk about as Viking fans. In a division with the Chicago Bears, Green Bay Packers, Minnesota Vikings, and Detroit Lions, one coach has not won a playoff game.
Yeah, he's got to get a playoff win.
Ben Johnson just won a playoff game.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin O'Connell is still 0-2.
Yeah.
Dan Campbell's won multiple playoff games.
Like I said, we have another season like we did this year, next year. I think KOC's in the hot seat.
I think this makes this looks bad for the Viking fans right now. For all the Kevin O'Connell guys out there, Ben Johnson just won a playoff game.
I think KOC's in the hot seat next year. For sure, there's going to be added pressure for him to be able to show that, like we talked about, he needs to show that he's able to develop a quarterback. And then 2, the play calling.
Yeah, play calling.
He has to be able to show that he's able to have a balanced offense, better play calling, no weird, TJ Hawkinson run plays, but let's make sure that next year we come into it with, a more focused approach with JJ McCarthy, because whatever we did last year didn't work this year. So we got to do something different, right?
We got to do something.
So yeah, I think the pressure's on them now. It's a really tough division. We're the only division that every team in the division had a winning record.
Right.
So for 2 years in a row now, we probably have the toughest division the NFC North playing in. So it's the most competitive. But we went 4-2 this year. We went 4-2 against the division. So we showed that, hey, we can win against those teams, even with the type of season that we had and the injuries. So I think there's no we swept the Lions. I think right? I think there's no reason that we can't go into next year saying that, hey, if we get above average quarterback play, or weeks 14 through 16 JJ McCarthy, if we get 14 through 16 JJ McCarthy type play for next season, there's no reason to say that, hey, we shouldn't be in the playoffs and be able to have an opportunity that, hey, KOC has to go out there and win a game. Mm-hmm. Now, if he makes it to the playoffs and doesn't win again, I'm not saying, hey, he's gone. I think it depends on what type of a season we're having, type of deal, and who we're playing, how that game goes. Yeah. But if we don't make the playoffs,
hot seat. I'm just saying, he's the only coach in the division that doesn't have a playoff win.
If we're not making the playoffs next year, that season's really hot, in my opinion.
You can't sit down on it. It's so hot.
Yep. I agree. Well, hey, I can't say enough. This has been great. You stayed on for an extra long time. This has been a long podcast, but
anytime you need me to come, man, just let me know.
You've been an awesome guest to have on here. I hope that we can do it again, vice versa. I'm more than willing to come on.
everybody that's in the chat right now, subscribe to the channel. Try to take your channel and put it in the chat so everybody can click on it and subscribe. So, you know, if you're watching, just try to help the channel out. You know, he's trying to grow his channel on his own right now. I know how that is. And I just think that everybody, like right now, you know, I would really appreciate if you guys just go ahead and, you know, subscribe to the channel, you know, check him out. Like, he got some good content out there. You know, I'm just help him out, man. Please, just subscribe to the channel, please.
Appreciate that. Yeah. So I'm at Vikings Playbook on X and at Vikes Playbook on YouTube. So if you can, go ahead and go to both of those and go ahead and subscribe and follow. Appreciate that. And if you want to catch any of the Vikings Playbook podcasts, please make sure that you set your alerts, and that way that you get notified every time that we have a show. I try to bring on other guests from other podcasts, and whether it be former players, coaches, or podcasters like D Woods. I'm always trying to give you a different look and different opinion. I hope to have D Woods on again. And at the same time, make sure that you're going ahead and subscribing, if you're not already, to Skol State of Mind, so you can follow D Woods and everything that he's doing on social media. And I appreciate you so much for coming on. We've had good chats even before the podcast, and I hope that we continue to do that. You've been just amazing to have on the show tonight.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it, man. Anytime you need.
Even though you were rooting for them, we got to watch the Packers lose together. So
yeah,
great night. It's been a great night.
Right? I think I have the link. Let me see. I'm trying to see.
Skol. Absolutely.
See the channel link real quick. Hold on before you take it off. Let me see.
Thank you, Mythic Plague. Appreciate it.
There you go. Yeah, I see you. You got some guys that subscribe. That's cool. All right, let me see. Let me put it right here.
So we do have a Facebook and Instagram too. I'm still trying to get those up and running. You can also follow this show on purpleptsd.com. I do some writing for them as well. And so check that out. We also have a cool Fantasy 15 FB on X. I do a Fantasy 15 podcast. You should check that out too. But other than that, Vikings Playbook. This is great. I hope to do this again. And thank you everyone that's watching, adding comments throughout the show tonight. This is great. And look forward to doing this again. Thanks again, D Woods.
All right, man.
All right, have a good night. This has been Vikings Playbook for D Woods and myself, Steve. We're out. Skol.